Welcome back to part 2 on how to move to France. So if you haven't seen part 1, I explain what it means to be a language assistant in France. This program is called the TAPIF program. So if you want to know all the requirements to be a part of this program, go see part 1 first. So once you apply, you would have to choose between 3 academies that you would have to work for. So what the academies are technically regions that you would choose where you would be placed in terms of being a teacher. So for me, I had no idea what region I wanted to actually work in. And it was my professor from university that chose for me. So obviously for me, at the beginning, I didn't really know anywhere other than Paris. She encouraged me not to go to Paris, and she said there's so much more to see in France. So she chose the Académie of Toulouse, the Académie of Montpellier, and the Académie of Grenoble, I believe. And what happens is it's the Ministry of Education that will choose for you after you've chosen your top 3 regions. So I ended up in the Académie of Toulouse, but the Académie of Toulouse is pretty big. So I ended up in actually a really tiny village called Argelès-Gazost, right near the city of Lourdes, where there's the famous church from there. It's a small village in the Pyrenees where nobody spoke a word of English. So when I tell you I had to learn French so quickly, in the TAPIF program, it's a 7-month program. So from October to May, I believe, that's when you would be teaching. If you're an English teacher, for example, then they would place you with an English teacher in France, and either you would work with them as an assistant or they would give you your own set of students and you would be in a classroom on your own. The good thing about this program is that you do get paid. You get paid 800 euros, and I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but the cost of living in France is actually really low, and the rent is also really low. Unless you end up in a really big city, then it might not be enough or it might be just enough. But from where I was living, I got lucky because the school that I was placed in, I didn't need to pay rent at all. So I was able to pocket 800 euros completely. But I know some of my friends ended up having to pay rent. So for example, their rent was 400, and so they ended up keeping half of it for food. What's good about France that I had no idea about, which was a lovely surprise, every 6 weeks you get 2 weeks of vacation time. So by the time I started in mid-October, very quickly, we already had our Christmas break, for example. So that was a really fun time. And traveling around Europe is actually really cheap if you can use airlines like Ryanair, EasyJet. I loved the experience. I made so many new friends. I made friends with people who were Spanish language assistants, German language assistants, and it was a really amazing experience, and I highly recommend it.